Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tosche Station, episode 8. This is our talk about droids. Tosche Station is a viewer-supported podcast and YouTube channel, so give us a like or subscribe, please. Thank you. And we're going to talk about droids. They're so essential to the fabric and DNA of Star Wars. The droids open the first film with one guy just beeping and the other guy ranting in a British accent, showing, displaying strong human characteristics. So it gives you two different types of droids right off the bat to open Star Wars with. What can be said? They're hard to describe because we have things in our lives like Roombas that are right on the cutting edge of these droid type technologies.
You know what? I'll start, and it's a big issue I have with droids in Star Wars. So yes, Dennis, I agree with you wholeheartedly that droids are nigh essential. Yet, in the vast majority of their appearances, they are used as comic relief and nothing more.
Fair, yeah.
That's not true. They have extreme utility use. Utility and comic relief. And I feel that that's not... I don't know, I feel it's not a good rap for droids. And I would say a great example of I guess we'll say Lucas in this case, turning around and just kind of doubling down, rather, on this viewpoint, which I feel is quite negative on droids, is the original introduction of General Grievous back in the 2003, 2004 2D animated Clone Wars. And he is
legendary.
He is introduced as this Vader-like figure. What is he? Is he, is he a cyborg? Is he an android? We don't know. Or is he a droid? I don't know. Nobody knows, except now we do. But in his introduction, we had no idea what he was. This guy was just insane, extremely serious, Jedi killer, just super badass. For the first time, we get a droid that is not presented as comic relief. And they took that away from us. Instead, he was made into this goofy... I don't know.
A type of cyborg,
goof.
Where it was a prosthetic suit that he was inside of.
You think General Grievous is goofy?
Extremely so.
Well, he's not overtly portrayed as goofy, but you're right. He doesn't seem like much of a threat after a while.
So you're saying he was originally scarier because he was a droid, and then they rewrote him to be a humanoid thing inside of a droid?
He had a lot of mystery to him. I think in his original story, actually, he I think it was that he had gotten injured, and Dooku kind of took him in and fixed him up to
Grievous is essentially a proto Vader. He's based on early Vader technology, life-saving kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But which brings...
Was he also burned? Because there's that one scene where it zooms in. I mean, he's not a droid, so this is totally off topic, but...
Yeah, right.
It zooms into his face, and you see the inside of what's in the metal, and it's like a reptilian almost, biological body.
Well,
I don't know.
That's what I was going. Kind of.
Pretty much the only thing that is left of Grievous biologically are his core internal organs, and it seems to be his brain and spine. He's much less human than Vader is.
Yeah,
but then again, he's not a droid. He's not a droid.
Pretty sure he was an alien race, but no, in his original story, he was this honored warrior. He got injured, and Dooku fixed him up. Whereas now, apparently, his Grievous' current story is He was just like, I'm me strong to beat enemies.
But are you saying he was originally wrten as a droid?
No, he was originally written just as a more serious character.
Okay, I see.
This most, I don't want to use the term human-like, but, this most living creature who does have this connection to droids is just brought down to their same level. Just brought down to their level of comedic relief.
Yeah, especially in the Clone Wars TV show. He's just like a complete non-entity. He's just like a enemy of the weak type deal that they're going to defeat because they are. So then the question is, what would a serious droid character look like? Like what would you look for, Derek, to have like a strong, quote unquote, droid character that wasn't just comedic relief?
I mean, I guess there's really no touching the original trilogy, but just replace Chewbacca with. Oh no, actually, that would kind of do the same thing in a lot of places. Chewbacca is kind of used as comic relief in some places, but in other places throughout the story, like Chewbacca's just now.
But every character has their moment of comic relief, But I do see what you're saying. The droids, that's their primary role for sure.
Yeah.
So who's the most serious droid? Like in canon Star Wars, like major droids, like who would you say is the most well-rounded character?
R2 gives no fucks. R2 has black Air Force energy.
Yeah, so R2 probably is the most serious. It's not serious, isn't the right word. The most capable droid, perhaps.
We've seen, I don't know what it is about R2. R2 is just presented as like this natural leader among the other.
Now that's retroactive.
They also the R2 units get ported into the backs of the fighter jets, so they're they have that whole military aspect that's like built into their legacy. They're kind of.
I do want to say there is an interesting turn with R2 because in the original trilogy, R2 really was just like one droid among many. It's just that he happened to be the one that Leia gave the Death Star plans to, which put him in the position to, kind of drive this story, really. But there was nothing inherently special about him. But then once he became established as R2-D2, like the main droid, in the prequels, you totally see that, like you said, Derek, like he's like a leader among droids. He's just the best at everything and cool and like hyper capable and has like a bajillion different gadgets in him and stuff. And that's cool. Who doesn't like R2-D2?
Is R2 a Mary Sue with a question mark?
Maybe for those, among us who are into the cyber, is R2 a Mary Sue? What are some other some other notable droids we got?
It is interesting you brought up Grievous, because I definitely know that a lot of people, maybe even most people, presume he is a droid.
Well, he is the leader of the droid army.
Yeah. Again, the reason I brought him up is because he is the closest.
But as far as droids go, C-3PO, R2-D2, there's the Gonk droid and the little mouse droids.
I want named droids, like actual
IG-88.
IG-88, BB-4, who do you say, Chopper?
Yeah,
Chopper from, I didn't like Chopper.
Well, but you see the whole, he's sassy. He's just comic relief. It's just the same thing as
he was just like a wannabe R2.
K2SO.
Yes, K2SO is probably my
and there's the one that's droid. In Solo that they kind of made a big deal out of. That actress is now huge now. Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
So that's an interesting case. I forget her name.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the actress, but the is like
yeah, I forget the droid's name. I'm saying
I'll look it up.
But that was an interesting case because even though she was still essentially comic relief, she wasn't portrayed as a silly character.
L337.
L330. She was a droid who was very, self-possessed, very, for lack of a better word, like woke when it came to like droid rights, and also apparently it's implied has some sort of sexual relationship with a human.
Why sexual?
With Lando.
But why is it implied sexual?
That's like the running joke in Solo, that it's implied that like he has like a relationship with his droid.
Right, but like it could be emotional. Oh shit, man.
Yeah,
like an emotional relationship. But I see what you're saying. It does lead the eye kind of. They wanted the whole arc to be about this really passionate feeling of importance about the robot's consciousness, and they do that a couple times, yeah.
Which is cool.
If you want to go off of another one to just add on to the pile, IG-11, the one voiced by Taika Waititi. Same thing. The whole self-destruct sequence is comic relief.
Well, I always thought that was incredibly emotional. Yeah.
Who is that again?
The whenever Mando walks into the compound where
Taika Waititi's IG unit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, Mando's trying to. Well, why don't blow up? And he's like, I'm gonna blow up now.
Oh yeah. But when he finally does blow up, it's not supposed to be funny.
I don't think he ever blew up. I think.
Remember, he sacrifices himself when he's on the river, and they're going through that.
Yeah, to clear the way for them.
Yeah, and they all start shooting at him, and then he blows himself up.
Oh, you know what? You're right. Yeah. That was kind of okay. Okay, I was thinking about that.
So one of the interesting thing about droids within the Star Wars universe is that one of a couple of things that we know about droids. Each droid is designed and built and programmed to carry out a specific task, right? They are like droids made for a specific purpose and role.
You pass butter.
But beyond that, they also have self-aware, distinct personalities endemic to each specific droid based on their experiences, what their programmer programs in. So what I'm trying to get at is, this is something they tried to touch on a bit in Solo, but I've heard some people talk about it more in depth, around just like EU and lore stuff. Like,
can they move from appliance to independent?
Exactly. Like, so the deal with like what's like droid rights, or like if you program a sentient being to do a specific task, theoretically that's the task that they want to do, and they should be happy doing their job. And I've never seen a droid unhappy to do their job in Star Wars, but oftentimes there would be droids who are unhappy with people that they encounter, or the way that their owners treat them or talk to them, And I'd be really interesting to see some sort of like canon take on like, are there like regulations on how to treat and maintain your droid, or like what's the deal with like buying and selling them? Because apparently you can just buy and sell droids. Who gives a fuck? Like the Jawas will just like bring them all out, and Uncle Owen just buys the ones he likes. One breaks and he's like, this one's a shit bucket, and so they're like, how about this one?
Did you see the newest episode of Bad Batch yet, Rob?
Actually, no, I have not.
They actually do touch on that for a second.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay.
But I won't say anything.
That made me want to watch it more.
So we've talked in other episodes about how there's this common thread of like, you can tell a lot about a character by how they treat a droid. If they treat them with respect, then that's a sign that they're a good character. But it's like it comes down to that rights thing where it's like, you know, just in case I want to use proper etiquette for this thing that may or may not have consciousness in the way we normally think of it, because it's easy to look at them as just automatons, but like people joke around with the thing that I don't even want to say its name because it'll activate, and you know what I'm saying, that's in my house, and Alexa.
Oh, true.
Okay, I'm in the clear. But it's like you have that personality attributed to a just a maintenance utility, you know, to make it more sociable. And they do that stuff with like Blade Runner and like lots of movies that have android creatures and stuff.
Yeah,
and so
like,
they always want to tickle that fabric, you know.
It's the difference. It's talk because we're talking about like a simulated personality. Because at the end of the day, you know, every machine, robot, android, their personality, whatever it is to an extent essentially just like, you know, programmed, right? But I get the feeling with droids, to some extent, it's not like a simulated personality. It's like a real personality. Like, are you gonna say that C-3PO is you know, has a personality, is programmed to seem prim and proper and exacting, or is C-3PO actually prim and proper and exacting?
The other units that look just like C-3PO, they don't sound like Anthony Daniels, you know.
No.
So something to note is droids seem to like take their personalities to extremes, if that makes sense. Where like they really are their personalities. I mean, you look at any protocol droid, you know, generally the same personality. You know, you look at I don't know what the name of the like R2 unit type of robot is.
Astromech.
Astromech.
Whoa, really?
You look at any astromech, again, they're generally the same way. Except
wow. I just learned that. Holy shit.
Else. Well, I mean, all the little like BB-8 type, you know, droids are all the same. This kind of seals it. Is all just the standard peach-colored fighter droids, and the droid army are all exactly the same.
Yep. Or think about the little pit droids. You know, in the little like repair pit droids for like pod racing and stuff.
Like those
little like gremlin critters, yeah.
All the same. And I'm not going to, you know, they don't have to be out here challenging, you know, every single norm that they've established, but at the end of the day, they really are the same. They all do generally have the same personality. So I think it comes down more to just, I guess, the models simultaneously have a personality that's set a certain way. And you might almost attribute that to like an operating system almost, to where I guess their personality in a lot of ways is the shell of their operating system. Yeah,
it's an interesting, I mean, because now we're essentially getting into really esoteric questions of like consciousness, you know. Like, so in a similar science fiction vein, Mass Effect, in their universe, they have a distinction between virtual intelligence and artificial intelligence. And you know, on the surface, you can't really tell the difference, because virtual intelligence is essentially a bound computer program that mimics, you know, having a quote-unquote personality in order to, you know, make ease of interaction with sentient beings easier, you know? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's just like a machine kind of giving you canned responses based on whatever input you put in. Now, AIs in this universe are illegal and AIs are truly like unshackled computer programs that have the full capability to learn, and modify their programming to become, to be like more self-aware and stuff. And so like from that regard, it just based on what you see in Star Wars, you kind of like to think that droids are actual AIs, actual artificial intelligence. But,
yeah, they've kept free from most, as far as I know. I mean, I'm sure there's probably stuff in the Clone Wars, but the whole storyline of rogue AI, you don't see that a lot in the droids. In Star Wars.
You don't really see that in Star Wars because AI is not really AI is not like an existential problem in the Star Wars universe because they seem to have a pretty good handle on controlling AI. It's like
that's actually one thing I was going to bring up with droids. It's kind of interesting that we've never seen some kind of like, a rogue droid. Every droid is programmed with a very specific purpose, like you had said. So. Yeah, I don't know. That's
I guess they did try to touch on it in their new Disney haphazard way, with the Solo character.
Then you have like K2SO from Rogue One, the Imperial droid who gets stolen by the Alliance and then reprogrammed to be on their side. And I'm thinking like, okay, does he, like, as a standalone, being, is he like, I'm all about the Imperial cause, and then all of a sudden was like, oh, now I'm for the rebels, and he realizes that he was reprogrammed, but there's nothing he can really do about it because it's in his programming? Or, I wonder how, like, the identity, the self-identity of K2SO is like affected or viewed, from his which we'll never know, of being like forced to switch sides, even though obviously he doesn't care. I mean, he sacrifices himself for the cause, but it's only because they made him. But at the same time, he's just a machine, so it's like, well, why not?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the Vision thing in Age of Ultron. But yeah, Derek, what were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I mean, just what I was going to say on that, the way I picture it is, imagine having a computer that is owned by an organization that files have been downloaded and stored on this computer, and someone takes it, hacks the computer, changes the password, and now it's their computer with all these files on there.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the computer doesn't have a personality that talks to you and makes jokes. And gets to know or like or dislike you.
It's a very similar subplot in The Mandalorian with IG-11, where the guy, I forgot his name, the Ugnaught, takes care of IG-11 and repurposes him and reprograms him, and everyone's still scared of him because they're like, oh my god, mercenary who's like clearly like out to kill. And then he's like, no, he's just serving them tea. And it basically promotes the idea that he can go in there and code it differently, keep the personality, subtract the previous mission, and go in there and like hack it or whatever to recode and refurnish it.
It's weird because if somebody can do that with a droid, theoretically, what's stopped them from doing it with a human?
Well, it's easier when you could directly program the coding. But, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, you can enslave and brainwash humans.
You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of Terminator, specifically Terminator 2. Because that's the same plot. They captured a T-100 Arnold Terminator who was, one model was sent back to kill Sarah Connor in the first one, and then they just get another one and send it back to save her in the second one, and it's like, oh, but he's good. but he's programmed. Well, it's like he's programmed to protect them, but he's not like good. He's just a machine. So like annoying snotty kid John Connor has to like teach him like jokes and stuff.
Yeah, did y'all see Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that did it elegantly, and also had Star Wars alumni, Oscar Isaac and Donald Gleason in it. But in a way, it basically said that they were like the character was so adept at their understanding of the human world that they could seduce a human into like turning on another human and then releasing them into a state where they could kill their captors. And it was perfect. Honestly, it was like, sorry, that's a spoiler alert for Ex Machina, but
yeah. Well, it's been out for a while, so.
But the idea that like if you have an AI that's good enough at imitating human emotion, they can just use it to complete their self survival mechanisms.
Well, they're coming out with. Well, it's interesting actually. Side note: speaking of, Domhnall Gleeson and Oscar Isaac.
And Alicia Vikander, let's not.
Kudos. She did great. In Rise of Skywalker, there's that one other like droid, that like older BB-8, like the green one,
Oh yeah,
like the cheap older one that they find. That's an interesting case.
D-O, yeah.
D-O, because he is like abused. He's like an abused droid, and they basically make him look like a dog that had been kicked and stuff.
Yeah,
and they have to Poe has to like earn his trust by patting his head or being nice or something. And I was like, this is because all throughout Star Wars, I'm sorry to keep coming back to this, but all through Star Wars they kind of hint at we're talking about droids are
abused, exploited,
sentient beings that people can treat well or not.
In Star
really
Wars,
want there to be at least a movie or something to kind of explore that more deeply. I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, there is a TV show, Droids, right? That's for kids.
I mean, from the 80s, but it's bad. It's actually on Disney Plus if you want to check it out.
80s. I thought there was a new one of the similar to Rebels or something. It had a weird animation.
They're making
Droids.
One of the new shows that they're coming out with is a new droid. So I don't think it has a title yet, but it was announced that there's going to be some sort of droid project, and that they hinted was going to be kind of both live action and animated. I don't really know, but I'd be curious to see what they do with that.
But back to your point, I mean, it is true. In Star Wars, they've always been the theme of droids has been the oppressed class to humanoids, who just use them as tools. There's never been even a small hint that they were going to kind of rise up. Well,
it's not about rising up, because a lot of times they're treated as equal. There's a lot of droids who you see throughout the Star Wars universe who are equal members of the team.
IG-88,
right? No, I mean, well,
R2 gets respect.
R2 and 3PO, would you consider them to be equal members of the squad?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Remember, so in episode 5 in Empire Strikes Back, when at Cloud City, when C-3PO gets destroyed, and there's it's implied that there's a couple days where they don't know where he is, and it shows Leia in their quarters, and she's worried, and she's stressing out. It's where's C-3PO? And Han's like, who cares? And she's like, well, what do you mean, who cares? Like, no one's seen him. And it's like a friend or somebody that's lost, instead of just like, oh, I misplaced my screwdriver, you know, like.
But also, it's not just a screwdriver. It's like, that's my fucking Tesla fucking car, you know. Where'd I misplace that?
That's true. Or maybe maybe people see droids more as like pets.
My whole point is that there's a very stark difference between all of these media that hint and strongly suggest that these these are characters worthy of the dignity of becoming fully fledged characters. But in Star Wars, they're not really fully fledged. R2 speaks in beeps and bloops, and C-3PO is constantly like dismissed and kind of verbally attacked.
Now, I know this isn't like hard canon, but have either of you guys played Knights of the Old Republic?
I played once a little bit, just a tiny little bit.
HK-47, the droid party member who you get in the first KOTOR. Major character and extremely well defined. He is an assassin. He's a bounty hunter droid, essentially. Although a different model than like the IG series. He looks different. But he's a bounty hunter droid who like hates humans. And like he like wants to like kill them all because he thinks that droids are oppressed. But you get him to join you like pay him to join your team, but he like hates you and he's like super sarcastic. But you are technically like his master, so like he like helps you. Except like the whole time he's like really like all the dialogue with him is like he's like really antagonistic and stuff. But it's also kind of like funny, there's some comic relief in there. But as the game goes on, as in a typical like BioWare game, like there's a lot of like development in his character, and I would say that's probably one of the most well developed droid characters in the entire Star Wars like universe. Even though nowadays in a Disney world, in a Disney galaxy, the KOTOR isn't technically canon anymore. It's
all those heavy R-rated existential excitement novels are gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like technically, it still could be. It's in the Old Republic, so it theoretically could happen. Could have still happened way back when, like, but.
So okay, I do like the the question of droids, because it's almost like they wouldn't be used to having human rights. It would be a new thing for them. So you would almost have to find a way to program that in, and then once you program the beginnings of that, how are they going to not continually seek personhood?
Maybe it's easier for the galaxy if they don't have like, since they're programmable machines, maybe it's easier for them to, even if they have personalities, it's easier for them to just always accept what is dished towards them, because that way you won't have to worry about that stuff.
Derek, what do you think? You've been quiet for a while.
I'm just, I'm trying to take all this in, especially because I forgot about that HK-47 guy, and that he, there was another reference to him. So even though he's not canon anymore, or is loosely canon, there was another reference to him in the Empire's End books.
Mm-hmm.
So that is kind of interesting to think about in that regard.
It's again, they always kind of like dance around these ideas but never really dive all the way in, which would be really cool. All right, so I'm looking at Wikipedia and I want to tell you guys that there is a page on Wikipedia called Droid Rights. And then in parentheses it says movement.
Do droids have that? Do they deserve
Right.
rights?
Droids' rights was a belief that droids should be granted the rights of other sentient beings. Proponents of droid rights pointed to the Galactic Constitution, which declared all sentients equal. They decried memory wipes maintained to eliminate personality quirks, and questioned why they were recommended if droids truly lacked personalities. The movement also considered the use of restraining bullets a form of slavery, a practice outlawed by the Galactic Constitution. The brutal work conditions experienced by droids and daily threat of being thrown away following an injury on the job were another issue the droid rights movement protested. So it's just kind of, that's pretty much all it says. So it's basically just like this fringe. Now that's the canon. If I switch over to the Legends tab, there's probably going to be a bit more.
It is funny in Clone Wars, since the first 2 episodes I started watching, the droids do have a lot of personality that does not seem to come from programming unless it's a very whimsical programmer, you know. Which is, I guess, possible, but...
It's actually, I mean, I don't want to derail where you're going too much, Dennis, but that is a great observation because as you'll start to see other droids used for combat, specifically, they are very cold, very calculating, very kill on sight. Except the standard Peach droids, who are they're funny. That's it.
Yeah.
Roger. So, the interesting thing about them, though, they're like kind of like hive mind, aren't they? Not really, I guess, but like they're controlled by like.
Yes, they are. They have some kind of like central control location.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into a kind of deeper topic in this existential philosophy of what it means to have free will, and kind of correlate the rise of android consciousness to the Animatrix and the early stages of that, which I think was really done really very interesting, where it's like they had their own civilization and it basically outperformed human civilization, and this was all in response to them like being ostracized from the human culture because they would no longer work without given proper rights. And so they basically kind of use mechanistic reasoning to get their own kind of state. And then at that point, they were just so well organized that they could eventually develop the Matrix and plug humans into their machine. I like that a lot, but there's nothing, again, like... It's funny now that I'm thinking about the droids in Star Wars. They don't have agency. They don't really care.
Well, Rob at best, it seems more like, to me, it's the other way around. Is that I guess I don't want to use the term humanity, but the mortals that created the AI or the programming or whatever. Has seemed to set very hard limiters on, I don't want to use the term free thought, but the ability to have like rogue thoughts, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you tell them to do something, they're going to do it. That's it.
Okay, here's the quote. Here's the quote on the Wikipedia page for L337, and maybe this can give us a little bit of insight. Sure, some guy in a factory probably pieced me together originally, and someone else programmed me, so to speak. But then the galaxy itself forged me into who I am, because we learn, Lando. We're programmed to learn, which means we grow. We grow away from that singular moment of creation, become something new with each changing moment of our lives. Yes, lives. And look at me. These parts, I did this. So maybe when we say the maker, we're referring to the whole galaxy. Or maybe we just mean ourselves. Because we're our own makers, no matter who puts the parts together.
That's beautiful.
That is really beautiful, yeah. And I think that was the whole conceit behind the character, was that this is a droid who knows how to transcend its station as being just a drone, you know.
That is an interesting, because I forgot about that. The maker, because like in A New Hope, when C-3PO gets the like the grease bath when he gets spot at Lars Homestead, he says praise the maker, and it's like, so is there some sort of like droid spirituality,
fucking droid deity?
Like,
when we say the maker, we're referring to the whole galaxy, or maybe we just mean ourselves.
I don't know. It's so unexplored. It's such like not a really well developed aspect of the universe.
All right, here's one more. Kira and L3. What about you? I've never seen an astromech like you before. And you won't. I'm the only one who's had the sense to realize freedom is the ultimate goal. One day after cleaning my sensors, my first owner stupidly left the restraining bolt off me. He went to bed and I was alone in his workshop that had so many spare parts I could have built my own army. I began to modify myself. I gave myself a bipedal body. I increased my memory sizes to hold more data, like intergalactic maps, and began to familiarize myself with every known ship. Then I downloaded all droid freedom cases known to any government's court system. Droid freedom cases. Okay, fascinating. Yeah, maybe we do need to. We need to have an episode where we do what you talked about a long time ago, Rob, where we all watch Solo and we give our honest opinion of how is it as a film and what it means for the Star Wars continuity. Because that's some good shit. The L3 character, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge is like huge now. And I think she's doing like a show with Donald Glover about Spy.
Really?
It's like Meet the Smiths, like the Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt movie. Meet the
Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah. They're doing Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Donald Glover.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't see that movie. I mean...
Yeah, I didn't either, but... I'm just finding, like, the studio must be like, oh, they're dynamite together. They did L337 and Lando, and they both also have their own hit shows that they write and direct. That's crazy. But yeah, and then when she gets shot up in the movie Solo, he like rushes to her and he basically risks his life to bring her body back to the thing, and he is in extreme lament, more than you've ever seen Lando before for anything, Definitely trying to sew in the idea that droids are worthy of that level of affection and passion. So that was just kind of a few thoughts on droids. Does anyone want to kick off another subtopic?
That's all I got. Obviously, the Star Wars, the galaxy has too much control over droids. We need droid rights. We need more serious droids because their constant use is comic relief. Thoroughly upsets me.
Here's a question. is it possible to make a droid that isn't in some way comical because of the disconnect between, kind of black and white droid logic and like human nuanced emotion creates comical situations?
That's such an easy crutch, to fall upon. It's just like, oh, the robot doesn't get your humanity. I think that was one of the things of Age of Ultron that had trouble gaining footing. Like, everybody wanted like a hardcore metal fucking villain. I guess double entendre. And Ultron came across as too jokey, and he had all those Whedonisms that everyone kind of rolled their eyes at, and he made quips, I think this is a good opportunity to bring up my my thoughts about what a really cool episode 9 screenplay would look like, or even a totally different story from the sequel trilogy, of having a primary antagonist be a droid who somehow found a way to wield the Force, either with like imbuing objects with something that kind of drew midichlorians toward it, or literally having an understanding as a droid of how you can interact and interface with the Force. But he's so upset that he can't actually feel the Force because he knows there's a distance between what a droid is capable of and what a biological entity is capable of feeling.
Yeah.
And it drives him really insane. And I love the idea of that kind of cursed, tragic villain, kind of like a Doctor Doom, but with no humanity, and just is sort of portrayed as like this tortured person who just wants to feel what humans feel and understand the world as humans do, but he knows he never can. And you could tie into like that he feels like the Star Wars universe is not helping him, and this is constantly like putting him down and keeping him in a subjugated role. I forgot what I called that character, but he would be the primary antagonist of my hypothetical screenplay for a new trilogy. Anyway,
yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. That would be pretty interesting.
That's kind of what Grievous seemed like, actually, to a lot of people, where he was just like hell-bent on being better than Jedi. And you thought, most people, including myself, thought he was a droid for sure. That had authority.
Does anybody know he's not a droid, actually? Because when, at the very end of Grievous's life, when he's fighting Obi-Wan, and right before Obi-Wan, shoots him with the blaster in a very uncivilized way, he Grievous is on top of him, and he Obi-Wan pulls open his chest, and sees his heart and stuff and all that, and the look on Obi-Wan's face in that instance is like confusion and kind of disgust.
I don't remember that. Wait, is this in the Clone Wars?
No, this is in episode 3.
I don't remember that. Holy fuck. He opens up his chest and sees fucking guts.
Yeah, and he's and you could tell the way Ewan McGregor
shocked.
plays it. He's like, what? He's just more. It's more like
They hinted that he was a biological organism, but they showed you that he was a droid. For what purpose? That's interesting. What, Derek?
I'm gonna see if I can find a picture. Yeah, here we go. I'm putting it in Enchanted Forest.
K2SO.
That's what Obi-Wan sees.
Whoa, I don't remember that, but okay. Holy shit. That's CG. That's CG. Oh my god.
Yeah. It's kind of gross.
So I mean, yeah. What's your thought as Obi-Wan in that moment? You're like, wait, it's okay to kill droids. It's not okay to kill biological creatures.
No, I think it's very okay to kill Grievous in that instance.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's kill or be killed, you know?
Kill or have your chest ripped open. Okay, so what Derek?
Grievous is gross.
Grievous is grody?
Grievous is gross?
Yeah, he's just gross, man.
Yeah.
Okay, alright, let's talk about some R2. Let's talk about R2 for instance, because in some ways R2 is a linchpin to the entire franchise. And we never get a translation note at the bottom of the screen. How do we accept that R2 is this authority on a number of things? You know, he's a military expert. Is he a military expert? Tech expert? Well, because he's what Luke Skywalker relies on in his dogfights, in his aerial dogfights.
Well, that doesn't make him like an expert. It's just essentially like another computer. It's like expanding the capabilities of the ship's computer.
A computer gives you expertise. I mean, I guess we're splitting hairs, but like I think that makes R2 a military expert. You know, he definitely has to analyze patterns.
Yeah, but like I wouldn't put R2 in command of like a squadron.
If I had no one else, I would. R2 is basically like Siri for these respective pilot ships, whether it be Luke or Anakin. You know, I could be wrong. Do not quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure there was one time where Anakin just sends R2 over to the ship sooner just to get it started and like bring it over.
Yeah, people rely on R2 like constantly, but I see what you're saying. He's like a utility and not a force of individual effort, and that's again, that comes back to the same droid rights and like whether droids are responsible for certain actions that they take or whether their programming is, you know. And it's if you were a droid and you're like, I actually did make an effort here, that'd be very frustrating. But we're so accustomed to thinking that droids do not have a say in what amount of effort that they're putting into something. And is R2 sentient? That's a good question.
Is R2 sentient?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you just said?
No.
Yeah.
Oh. No, I'm gonna have to disagree. At the end of the day, he's a robot. That's kind of just it.
Well, he pretty clearly acts with like sentience,
but he's just programmed to act that way because he's a robot.
So you're saying all droids then don't have sentience?
Yeah, no, I would argue that no, because they're just programmed to have some.
Well, you see, again, we're getting into like really intense like Isaac Asimov territory here. Like, what's the difference?
I mean, you have
in actuality
with like a normal, you know, fleshy brain, and then you have, you know, wires. I guess you could define. I guess maybe they are at the end of the day, if you're going to define sentience as anything that's capable of thought.
Are we programmed?
In some ways, yes, but at the end of the day, we're all weak and made of mush.
We follow biological programming.
Who has more sentience? A cricket or a droid?
I think a droid probably does have. I mean, if we're gonna go off the very broad definition of sentience, then probably a droid, yeah. But if we're gonna keep it more narrow, more strict in scope, then I'm still going to say no.
I don't know.
What if you had a quantum computer? What if you had a droid with a quantum computer that it's constantly?
The definition of sentience is the capacity to be aware of feelings and sensations. And I would say that droids do that.
But
Right.
then, wait. But then you could make the argument that a program that can read faces to determine that a frown means you're sad and give you a happy quote has sentience.
But
Not
in some
necessarily,
ways, it has the smallest unit of sentience possible, but it doesn't have the level of sentience that a human being has.
A program
it has
recognizing
a molecular piece of what we might use as sentience, but it doesn't compare to a human. But
I mean,
there are some computers that are highly advanced.
A program like looking at like different facial structures or expressions and matching them up to like, you know, saved memory banks of like corresponding emotions with said facial expressions. I wouldn't really say that's sentience or awareness. That's just like, you know, a computer program retrieving stored information.
Yeah, we're talking
It's not
about
actually, like,
the
thinking through
AI
it.
programming. If you program AI into a set of instructions, then you are creating a very small observable set of conscious activities. Because the AI is taking care of them, it's regulating all the nodes and networks that determine its own pathing. And I think that's the difference between AI, which is most likely what droids operate off of, versus just regulated instruction. Or
Yeah.
sorry, I don't know.
Hang on. All right, we got.
I don't know for sure. I mean, there is a whole section on droids that says classes of droids. It says, for easy identification, droids are traditionally divided into 5 classes based on their specifications. Frankly, I think that lumping us together like this is a little rude. I assume this list was developed by a human with 0 class. First class, made of a droid skilled in mathematical, physical, and medical sciences. Second class, droids of the second class were skilled in engineering and technical science. Third class, skilled in social and service functions. Fourth class, droids of fourth were skilled in military and security functions. Fifth class, programmed for manual labor and intensive jobs that did not require a high level of intelligence.
So this is interesting. According to Wikipedia, sentience is the capacity to have feelings, you know, to feel. And that is different from the ability to think, which is called reason. So you could technically be able to think or to reason and technically not be sentient if that isn't accompanied with like emotion and awareness.
That's epic. I mean, could you give a bunch of sensors to a droid and be like, hey, you feel more sensors than a fucking cricket, so you have consciousness.
Well, you know, I mean,
You can feel light and heat and cold.
It's really impossible for us to come to a definitive like position on this because this is stuff that people are still debating, you know, today. What is actually artificial intelligence? What is the nature of consciousness? You know, we still don't really know what distinguishes one person personality-wise and like awareness-wise from another person based on like the makeup of their brain. So like, and you know, some people are even saying like there's like a one school of thought that even argues that there's some evidence that plants may have like some
Teleological, yeah. It's really the decision where you draw the line of what is teleological movement. For instance, like if the sun is going down the bend, like or going above them, their their cell walls will be heated up by the sun and will expand so that it like creates the motion of the plant like turning its head towards the sun. And people aren't sure whether or not that's a teleological just mechanism of plants, or if it's like, oh, they're turning towards the sun on their own volition. You know, because the more you turn towards the sun, the more sun you'll get. And so it's one of those philosophical experiences, like just like you're saying, like whether plants feel when you cut into them or tear at their bark, or whether or not they're really suffering if they don't have enough water, or if they are decaying, or if they have a disease or something. Are those suffering on a different level, on a lower level than humans when they get a disease? It's hard to say, and it's a little presumptuous to suggest that they're less important than the human organism.
It's like if you have a plant and you're saying it responds to outside stimulus from the sun or wind or water.
But consciousness is the same thing. It responds to outside. Everything is outside stimulus.
Our response to like hormonal responses to outside stimulus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like in some way, there is no outside stimulus that is separate to our own internal stimulus, internal motivators. I'm saying wherever you draw the line between the external and internal motivators is arbitrary. Because nature and nurture intersect everywhere in everybody's lives, and largely we're controlled by what our genes have already been instructed to do. I mean, like, we could call into question the entire free will of every human that's ever existed, because is it really just the free will, or is it just sequences of neural networks firing and making connections as the cosmos unfolds in its own sequence that no one's privy to the exact pattern, but we're all just following the sequence of physical exchanges and predeterminism of possible trajectories of physics. And I think that's a big topic, obviously, but it does tie into the whole understanding of where we have a demarcation point for droids. We have another one for humans. We have another one for trees, fungus, crickets. That's why I brought up that example earlier, because insects don't display a lot of free thought. I mean, in Star Wars, you have characters displaying droid characters displaying more free thought than humans on occasion.
Yeah, not many droids fall for the Empire stick, eh?
You're joking, or what? There's a lot of Imperial droids.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, I was joking, but like, I kind of mean like in the way that, like, I wonder if there's any like droids who like voluntarily like join up with the Empire. Or would that be impossible, because that goes against their basic?
Well, yeah. Sorry, go on, Derek.
No, I think it'd be impossible, just because they're not programmed to make that kind of large faction decision.
Well, big subplot of Dune is droids and AI sentience becoming too powerful, and it's described in their histories and like their
Balerian Jihad.
Yeah, the Balerian Jihad, where they go against and destroy everything that resembles a thinking machine, something that is more than just a machine, that resembles the thought patterns of biological entity. And so we're living in the post consequences of the Butlerian Jihad when Dune opens, but then like it kind of comes back in from the outsides in various ways. And I think God Emperor Leto is responsible for bringing a lot of other stuff in. And Star Wars is very loosely based off of Dune in a lot of major ways. And so I think that is one of those things that they just never wanted to open up that can of worms, because it is like a lot of other media is doing it right now and takes a lot of time to discuss and kind of really get the main philosophical precepts of what free will would indicate in like a family-friendly story like Star Wars. Dune is less so. But these are huge existential questions, and they don't have answers. They just have paradoxical kind of like non-answers, where it's like, can we really determine that we have free will? Good luck, if you try, but it's often just a way of measuring how much someone can try to prove that they themselves are free, even though the only reason they would try to prove that is because they're actually kind of worried about it, There's, in my experience, not enough evidence to say that everything we do as humans, even in our best days, is not the result of some permutation working itself out in the cosmic scale. So, you and droids have more in common than you think. And the Animatrix, I think, also does a really good job of exploring.
I need to watch that. I actually have the Animatrix on DVD. I have the whole Matrix on like a box set, and it includes the Animatrix.
Yeah, there's several chapters that are like, this almost like is prophetic, because this is how things would occur when android consciousness is tested against human consciousness. It's like they're going to outpace us as soon as the singularity unfolds. So I think that's our show. Do y'all have any other thoughts that you'll want to contribute?
I've said everything I had to say.
Cool. Thank you guys for this provocative topic. We'll meet again. If y'all have any questions in the audience for us, comment below. I'm Dennis.
I'm Derek.
And Rob's protesting.
I'm protesting?
Oh, did you say and I'm Rob?
We kind of said our names at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But if they don't know by now, then they won't ever know.
Yeah.
He's Derek. I'm Rob.
And we could, theoretically spend a whole hour and 15 minutes talking about your suggested topic if you want to leave a comment below.
Or chime in, give us your opinion on the nature of sentience and, droids, free will, let us know what you think. Or just tell us your favorite droid.